So welcome to the talk about NetBeans plugin development. This is about how JRebel team was creating a plugin for NetBeans and what kind of challenges we experienced and what kind of problems did we solve. Basically, in all kind of IDEs, you have an opportunity to integrate with external tools. And then there is a question, why to create a plugin if you can just integrate an external tool and make it work with the IDE? But I think the answer to that is that you want a usability, a top-class usability for your product, and you want it to be really smooth. The experience should be smooth inside the IDE, and you want users to be happy using your product just with one-click install and one-click configuration and so on. My name is Anton. I work for Zero Turnaround, and I'm a JRebel product lead. And I'm a tooling freak as well. And back in the history, I'm a long-time NetBeans user as well. So we are going to talk about JRebel. I will talk what it is also, for those who don't know maybe. We take a look on the plugins development like basics, and then we will proceed to the challenges which we experienced on a NetBeans platform and how we solved that. So let's start with introduction to JRebel. The topic here is the developer's productivity. So JRebel is a productivity tool for Java developers, and the normal turnaround cycle in Java EE development is something like this. You make a change in the source code or in configuration file, and you probably rebuild the package, you upload the archive to your application server, you redeploy the application, you wait for some time, and then you can observe the results. Maybe you have to re-navigate inside the application to see the change as well. So this kind of cycle actually takes 2.5 minutes on average, according to our surveys. It might get to extremes when your build phase is really long and when the redeploy time is really long. We have seen the turnaround cycles to be about 30 minutes as well. But those are really extreme cases. So how does it work actually? We map the IDE, or actually the running application that you're developing currently, back to the IDE workspace, so that the agent could monitor the workspace and resolve the changes. So whenever you make a change, you add a new method, you add a new field, we detect that and we update the existing classes inside the application. And the same is actually applied for the frameworks, because currently everybody is using frameworks in Java, and obviously there you have a problem of updating the configuration files. If you're using struts, maybe you would like to add a new action to your struts XML, or you would probably like to add a new bean to your Spring configuration. So therefore we have to integrate with frameworks to update them on the fly as well. Let me actually show you how it works. Just a little demo. On the NetBeans platform, we have a small application based on Spring Framework, and it runs on Tomcat, and let's start it up. So it starts with JRebel. So you see, it already took me about 20 seconds to start it up. If I'm into UI development and I'm developing some kind of a layout, it's really hard to get UI right from the first time. So in development, I will be constantly restarting the application, and I will be annoyed by the end of the day. and it's not fun. So here is the application. We have a typo there. You see the cycle, the title of the link is somewhat a nonsense, and let's fix that. So we could just remove this typo here and save and refresh the file, and I can see that the change is applied. This is not a big feature. If you are in exploded mode deployment, the IDE can actually copy the JSP file into the correct place, and the container will pick up the change. But if you are in package deployment, you are not able to do that. You have to reassemble the whole package. Here you go. This is a big value already for you. So if we proceed further, we can do some more changes. For instance, we have a form which is validated for the input, and we can see all the fields are required. If we submit only blank fields, we can see the validation errors, and we could make some changes in the code so that so that we could probably extract a method in this. Refactor, introduce a method. Validate fields, and just to see that I really changed something, I will comment out the first name validation on this form. So I switch back, and I can see the change instantly applied to the application. So when I save the file, a good feature of NetBeans IDE is that it can compile right after you made the change. This is what makes the experience smoother in this case. But well, you can apply any other changes, for instance, adding fields, adding new methods, changing signatures, and so on. But the great feature is that you can actually make the configuration changes for the frameworks. And for instance, I would like to add a new validator to the first name field, which I'm not validating anymore, and I would like it to be a bean inside a Spring application. So let me add a new bean inside the XML. Well, nowadays you can add beans either by means of the annotations or in the configuration file, but in here I just want to show you the complex change, and that's why I'm adding it into the XML. So, and I want it to be available inside my controller class, so I'm adding a new field which will be auto-wired, and I would like to start using this validator as well. So, and let me show you what the validator does. It checks for the first name. If it's Anton, this is okay. So if I submit the form again, I can see the new logic from the validator has been applied. The new bean has been added to the context. It was auto-wired to the controller class, and I can see it working. So, so much of the demo. Let's make it short and proceed with the slides again. So why I would like it to be an IDE plugin? Because first thing is the usability. Actually, first thing is the automation. You want the user press the button. You don't want him to spend time for configuration, and this is where usability also comes from. The second thing is the nature of JRebel. If we don't help the debugger to understand the changes, it will get confused. So that is why we need an integration with debugger as well to be able to add breakpoints, smoothly step through the code when you are debugging and so on. So if we translate it to NetBeans platform now, usability and settings and configurations on the right, the box, those are applied to the workbench. So it's mostly about the components, the UI of NetBeans, and there is no problem at all for us. So we can use the available components and be happy with that. VM arguments. So JRebel is bootstrap using JVM arguments on the container, and process launcher is the component that inside the NetBeans IDE platform that we should integrate with to pass the correct arguments to the launcher to be able to start with JRebel, and also the breakpoints and stepping facilities for debugger. So let's take a brief look at the NetBeans plugins, what it is and how it looks like. Basically, there are a couple of books already that are great books to take a look at and learn about it. So I will not really go into like how-to development of NetBeans plugins here. But basically, if we have UI elements, buttons, actions, toolbars, menus, everything is provided by NetBeans platform. Extension points are there. You can plug in whatever you like. In older versions of NetBeans, layers.xml file was the primary thing to modify in order to inject your functionality into the IDE. Basically, it emulates a file system. It's hierarchical. It has a hierarchy, and within the hierarchy, you can define your own components. So either actions, toolbars. You can define an action. You can say where it should be positioned and bind it together. One important component, if you are building your own plugin, which you would like to be configurable and so on, is the options panel, where you can plug in and have your own plugin settings available on this panel. So it has both the old API, which you can define in the XML, or actually if you generate it inside the new IDE, I mean the new version of NetBeans, when you generate it, you get the new API with the annotations. Basically, it just annotates the classes and generates the, as far as I know, generates layer XML parts with annotation processor, right? Correct. So let's proceed to the challenges. Custom JVM arguments. So in order to start, JRebel needs to define -Java agent and a path to JRebel jar. And for the settings, it might require some -D parameters to be available as well. So this is how it's bootstrapped. For some versions of JDKs, it has to generate also a bootstrap jar. So we would like it to be automatic. We wouldn't like the user to generate this bootstrap on his own. And this is also like a usability feature when you just press the button and the plugin does it for you. And it also kind of different inside NetBeans IDE, so you might have different project types. If it's a Maven project, the arguments might be passed in one way. If it's a web project, it's completely different story inside the platform. And it also varies between the application containers. If you have a JBoss, maybe the parameters are provided in one place, and if it's Glassfish, you probably need to do something else. So from the user's perspective, for instance, you have Tomcat, and you go to the configuration window of Tomcat, and okay, you can find VM arguments there. If you didn't have this facility of automating the setup of the VM arguments. But in case of Glassfish, you open the same window and you do not find it. So this is the consistency problem for the user, right? And well, where do you define the VM properties for Glassfish? If you want to run on Glassfish, you go to a completely other place. It's in the project deployment window. All right. So if I'm the vendor who provides a plugin where my user has to define VM arguments, and I don't want to make an error while defining these arguments, I certainly wouldn't like him to figure it out on his own, because I'm interested that he will just click and it will work. So this is why we actually created this little toggle contributed by the plugin. So it's just a Boolean toggle. If it's on, it means JRebel will be bootstrapped. If it's not on, it runs in normal mode. So from the user's perspective, it's the simplest thing to do to enable a plugin like this. Well, there is an API for that, of course. Boolean state action. You can just set Boolean, yes, it's enabled, and go. But here is the challenge. In previous versions of NetBeans IDE, before 7.2, there are no extension points to provide the JVM arguments to the launcher. So we had to do a workaround. We had to binary patch the launcher, the platform launcher on the fly. Maybe it's not the brightest idea, but it worked for us. So how do we do that, actually? There is an API which you can use to plug into the platform called module install. So you basically implement your own installer, and if you are familiar with Eclipse plugin development, it's the activator. The same thing. So you define your own module installer, and next you implement your own patcher, which will patch the platform. So let's take a look what it is. You have to figure out first what are the classes to patch on the platform, because for each project type or for each application server which you want to start, it's implemented in different classes. So for each Tomcat or Jetty or Glassfish, you have to figure out what classes are responsible for that. And in this example, it's start Tomcat, start runnable, which is an inner class actually. So next you have to find the class loader, which is responsible for loading those internal classes. And you basically have to instantiate to get the instance of that. And after that, you can use some kind of a library. In our case, we use JavaSys to patch those classes on the fly. And let's proceed with the real code that really patches this class. So this is a small example, basically a snippet of what is happening there. Luckily, all those internal classes implemented a run method. It's not an interface method, but it's a run method, and it's luckily the same inside all the launchers. So we had we've been lucky to implement one single class that was really capable of patching this run method. And inside that method, basically we had to intercept the logic which was applying the JVM arguments on the fly. So get Java options, and if we see that the method is called, we basically add our own arguments to that one. All right. So basically, this is what is happening. We, according to the settings of the plugin, which we can derive what is the path to the binary, to the JRebel agent, and just inject our own argument inside the run method. So the benefits of that is that, well, it works. Even if the platform doesn't provide the interface, you can basically implement what you want. But it's a little bit brittle, because if the platform changes, maybe your binary patch will not work. It's almost the same as using reflection, right? But the good part of that is that there is a new API on NetBeans 7.2, which was successfully implemented, and using annotations you can create your own argument provider to the process, and yeah, this is how it should be. We are really happy to have it now. The next challenge is actually the debugger integration. So the challenge is that if you have a code which you have breakpoint on, and you make a change which basically adds new lines of code, new methods, you have a new version of the class, and the old breakpoint sits on top of the old version of the class. But you have new class running, and it doesn't hit the breakpoint. So we have to retransfer the breakpoints after the reload. Again, there weren't the API available for that. Luckily, in 7.3 it's coming. So you can implement your own breakpoint class filter for that, or maybe if you have some esoteric cases, maybe it will be useful for the others, but as far as I know, we are the only users of this API for now. And the next part is releasing the plugin. The process of releasing is something you want to be aware of, probably, if you are implementing your own plugin and you want to put it into marketplace, because, well, it's an obvious thing when the users are installing the plugin, they want to go to the repository and just download the plugin and be happy. So it starts actually with the packaging. You have to package your plugin in NetBeans module, and there are a lot of things to consider actually, because the plugin itself, the binary itself, is just a single thing here, but you probably would like to have dependencies. Maybe you don't implement all the code yourself, you have some components there. So there is a directory called module extensions where you have to keep it. And settings, or actually the descriptor of the plugin should be there, and it has to be signed as well. So our solution was to use various Maven plugins for that, to be able to generate it on the fly, not script the build of the plugin. So there is a NBM Maven plugin which can generate the correct packaging, some properties, provide the dependencies, which in our case was JavaSys library. Yeah, and you probably need to generate also some metadata inside the manifest, so you can use Maven jar plugin as well. After you have packaged the plugin, you want to publish it. There is a portal, the central place where the plugins are published, plugins.netbeans.org. The challenge we experience is currently is that when you publish the plugin, there is a verification process in place, so that when your plugin is there, it's not really visible inside the plugins repository in the IDE. So there is a community volunteers who manually verify the checklist of the features inside the plugin. There are some requirements that you have to fulfill. Basically, the main criteria is shouldn't break the platform. In our case, it's actually reasonable because we binary patched the internals. So, and it makes some time because there are several people who perform the validation, and it's volunteering and it's manual, so it's unpredictable actually. If you want your plugin to be available on Thursday, you have no guarantees for that. You cannot count on it. So I have talked to NetBeans guys, and they promised there will be a solution for a predictable process. So if you have a commercial product, you probably want it to be predictable as well. If it's 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks. If it's a month, it's a month. If it's 1 day, okay, I want it to be 1 day and I want it to be available tomorrow. So we learned some lessons while implementing it. The biggest lesson is that usability is hard. You never know actually how you end up with all these buttons, positioning, and UI elements and so on. You implement it for the first time. Users report that, oh no, this is not logical inside this ID. You probably have to do it in some other way. And so we actually re-implemented the UI several times on how we should put the toggle, or should we have a separate button, or should we have a menu there. But the general idea is that you should follow the logic of the ID. If you have NetBeans users on your team, let them evaluate your first prototype. If you don't have them, you should actually spend some time learning the ID or probably using it for coding. So the next thing is that it's a good thing to use the new API. If you don't have it there, report that you need it. And NetBeans team was really happy to help us with that. And annotations are better for code readability. In my case, it's my personal opinion here. So, but if you are in a rush and you want it to be implemented without relying on this process of creating new APIs, okay, you have a solution to implement your own binary patcher. It works, so, but it's on your own risk. And publishing, well, it's a soft topic, but it's a little bit unpredictable how it's done right now. With that, I actually would like to thank NetBeans guys for cooperating on that. Thanks for implementing the new API. We make the product better, and NetBeans platform will also be a better place with that. Actually, maybe I was too fast, but we have now plenty time for questions. Any questions? Yes, Ketchan.
What other features would you like NetBeans to have to support?
The one last API that we need on the platform is the API for stepping in the debugger. So currently we still have some binary patching code inside the plugin. So I hope if it will be implemented in 7.4, we will get rid of all those horrible hacks that we have right now in the plugin. The feature request is registered already, and the guys are working on it, but they just didn't have time to implement it by 7.3. Any more questions? Maybe regarding JRebel or NetBeans platform? If you don't have the questions now, we have a booth in the expo. You can find me there. We have demo guys. They can show you more demos. Or if you have questions about the product, just come and ask. Thank you very much. We can finish the session.